surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk and accusing them of endangering Charlie Kirk's family.
What?
Okay, this sounds very much like Seth Rich. You can't ever question the official story. You can't, even if it's unsolved. So this is another unsolved murder mystery, just like Seth Rich, and you're not allowed to ask questions. So whenever that is happening, you know there's some effery happening. Okay, and let's listen to him.
I think that the militant trans issue really became familiar to the American people.
By the way, I think they should get bigger desks and put them farther away.
What are they doing? Social distancing? What the hell?
Can I give one tip for this broadcast? Can you get bigger, further away desks, please?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we, poor people?
I mean, does he really have to do work on these desks? There's nothing happening on these desks. You could just have 3 chairs sitting right next to each other. Here we go.
Well, last month when Charlie Kirk was killed. I mean, you guys at breakneck speed found this guy, you identified him, you profiled the type of person that he would be, and that's incredible. Is there more evidence that you guys can offer to people, maybe video from that roof? Do you expect that there will be more to be released?
Yeah, there's a shit ton of evidence that they could share with people. They're not. Why? Because it contradicts their official narrative. That's why. Like they could show us the bullet. This 30-06 that his bones magically stopped like he was Superman instead of what a 30-06 would normally do to a human, which would take his head clean off. There wasn't even an exit wound.
Well, it's a miracle. I mean, you have to understand how miracles work.
It is a miracle.
Also, just to point out, quick community note, the FBI didn't catch him. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
His dad convinced him to turn himself in.
That's right. The FBI did not catch him. Okay, here we go.
I think the best thing we can do for Charlie, especially me as FBI director and our team, is to prosecute this case in the courts of law, where it is, in Utah, in the state of court of law. And what we're going to do is what we've done. Give them...
You know the best thing we could do for Charlie Kirk is expose this bullshit story you're peddling. That would be the best thing we could do for Charlie Kirk. Instead of finding a patsy and pretending there isn't a huge conspiracy of many people involved. We already know there's a patsy in the crowd. That guy's Zinn, who dropped his pants and said, "Don't shoot me."
Who's been to many of these events doing just that, probably doing those Google searches to see where he has to go.
Okay.
Every piece of evidence we collect. Our cellular analysis systems are the best in the world, and that's what the FBI does, and that's what we flew in and did. That's how we led the manhunt and got him in 33 short hours. And every single piece of video or forensic evidence or witness interview, we've done dozens and dozens, gone on these platforms, found every single person. All of that material, and I know this is frustrating to the public, and I understand it, but I'm not going to allow the Charlie Kirk prosecution to be dismantled because we want to get over our skis and publicize information. That is the one thing you cannot do. We will make everything public in court. It just takes time.
It does. Yeah, it always does in these cases. Is there any possibility that other people...
And by the way, does Kash Patel, does he sound like a guy who someone else is telling him what to say or what?
Well, yeah, because he said, I understand the frustration, because he probably is frustrated having to look like such a jerk off on television all the time.
When does his eyes ever given the impression that he doesn't care? He looks like a silent film actor trying to stand out in a haunted house scene, for F's sake. His eyes always look like he's just set on a stun gun. or the smuggled cocaine condom that he has up his ass just burst.
He always looks like someone just told his mom about his Grindr account.
So you want to know how so he doesn't want to get out over his skis, releasing information? Hey, you want to know 101 on how to look like you're lying? Go way overboard attacking anybody with a different narrative.
He's going over some skis.
Yeah, yes.
Is there any possibility that other people were involved? When you talked at the White House, I sort of got a little inkling that maybe you're looking at other people.
We're looking at everyone that was there, that was online, and we're looking to refer these matters to the state prosecution authorities when there's enough evidence. But the reality is, again, with social media, when you have hysterical conspiracy theories filling the void, you're harming Charlie and his family and a rightful prosecution of his alleged assassin, who we have in custody, and rightly so, in my opinion. And if anyone helped him, do you think that we at this FBI are literally going to let them get away with it?
Yes. That's what I think. 1,000%. Yes.
Did the Epstein thing not just happen? You guys won't release the Epstein file. You guys are lying to us at the top of your lungs about Epstein, saying he wasn't working with the CIA or the Mossad, and he wasn't running a child trafficking ring. Well, we all know he was. Everybody knows that. Even Trump knows. Everybody even admitted it. Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison over it. Well, a nicer prison now.
Yeah.
Us standing silent in the face of growing conspiracy theories, that's what we do to shut down a faulty prosecution. That's what we do to shut down a system of justice that wants to be exploited by these same anarchists. And that's what they're doing. Yep. They're bringing it to social media. They're bringing it online for clickbait, and we're not going to take it. We don't care what you say about me or Dan Bongino or anyone in leadership at the FBI. They're just going to keep doing the work. Man.
So he wants to shut down people who have alternative theories that go against the BS theory that he's putting up, that it was a lone gunman who put a 30-06, changed snuck onto a campus that he'd never been to before, snuck up on the roof somehow. There was nobody watching the roofs, apparently, again, just like with Trump, nobody watching the roofs. He changed his clothes, assembled a rifle, took the shot, disassembled the rifle, changed his clothes again, jumped down off the roof with the rifle unassembled somehow in his backpack that nobody could see, and then he changed his clothes again, then reassembles the rifle without the screwdriver that he left on the roof, and he wraps it in a towel, leaves it there by a house owned by Palantir, by the way, and then
heads to Mickey D's, changes his shirt a few times.
Yeah. then he heads to a fast food joint.
Now to bring my manifesto to a fast food place, as we all do when this happens.
So if you know, Mike Kash Patel, if you know you're actually right and what you're saying is true, what you do in those situations is you let the other people speak, just so they can hang themselves. You wouldn't try to shut them up under the false guise of you're harming Charlie's family. No, they're not. They said the same bullshit about Seth Rich. What they were doing was trying to shut down people who were pointing out that the FBI was lying about Seth Rich, because they were. And now we know they were, because the government won't release Seth. First they lied. They said they didn't have his laptop. They did have it. Then when it was proven they had it, they said we had it, but we can't get the information off it. Then which was a lie. Then they figured out, yeah, we can get the information, but we can't release it for 65 years. So every suspicion you had about the Seth Rich murder is probably true, and the FBI lied and covered it up, just like they're doing here. Let's listen to what he says.
You only need one thing, and you can spot whether or not you're standing in the middle of a psyop. That one thing is, if the opinion that's coming out needs people to be silenced, it's a psyop. There are psychological operations in play.
Wow. So if you can't question it, if you're supposed to just go along, it's a psyop.
Yeah, and if people have to be silenced or publicly shamed because of their information, and they're not telling people the sky's falling, they're not saying crazy shit. Mm-hmm. They're just saying basic stuff, and they need to be silenced. That is a psyop.
So what Kash Patel is running is a psyop, and that's exactly what's happening. They're lying to you about what happened. They have a patsy set up. They're not going to find the real killers, because the real killers probably came from inside our own government and probably came inside the Mossad, probably. So that's probably what happened. And it probably came from his own security team.
When the cameras stopped rolling, the questions didn't. When the headlines faded, the silence began. And when silence lasts too long, it stops sounding like respect and starts sounding like avoidance. Months after the day Charlie Kirk was killed, the world is still piecing together what truly happened inside that Utah auditorium. The alleged shooter, Tyler James Robinson, was arrested, charged, and presented as the face of closure. But closure never came, because somewhere between the police reports, the press briefings, and the quiet court delays, something felt missing. Now, someone who's seen the system from the inside has finally spoken, and his words are echoing louder than any headline. Kash Patel, FBI Director and National Security Advisor, has broken his silence. His message was simple, but devastating: show the public everything. No filters, no edits, no withheld evidence. And that call, from someone who understands how investigations really work, has reopened a conversation many hoped would stay buried. Please, before we move on, don't forget to drop your comment as you listening to this new updates. We would definitely respond to all comment. We will be glad to hear your feedbacks on this report. We stand for justice. We stand for Charlie. This isn't about politics. It's about truth. It's about whether the story we were told, the story that ended with one man dead and another behind bars, is the whole story. Because whether you admired Charlie Kirk or disagreed with everything he stood for, no human being deserves to have their death turned into a puzzle with missing pieces. So tonight, we're not pointing fingers. We're pointing to the gaps, the silences, the redactions, the evidence that never saw daylight. And if Kash Patel is right, then the truth about Charlie Kirk and Tyler Robinson may still be waiting to surface. What do you think? Is the case moving forward carefully, or is progress being slowed by procedural delays? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That's where we hear your thought, 'cause we will definitely respond to all comment and where you watching from. To stay updated on every development, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and also don't hesitate to support this movement so you stay informed as new update becomes available. This is Detective Max, and together we fight for justice. For months, the public waited for someone, anyone from the inside to speak. Not a pundit, not a commentator, but someone who's actually seen how decisions are made behind closed doors. And then quietly, Kash Patel did. His statement wasn't long, it wasn't loud, but it was surgical, aimed straight at the silence that has surrounded this case from day one. He didn't accuse, he didn't speculate. He simply said the one thing the public has been whispering for months: show us everything. A full, unredacted release. Every email, every directive, every piece of communication tied to the investigation of Charlie Kirk's death. Coming from Patel, a man who spent years navigating intelligence briefings, classified systems, and the language of redaction, those words weren't random. They were intentional. Because when someone who knows the system warns that the truth might be hiding inside it, the silence of others starts to sound a lot louder. His call reignited a conversation that many in power hoped was over. A conversation about transparency, about withheld details, and about whether the public has been protected or simply managed. To some, Patel's voice sounded like courage, a demand for honesty in a time when even facts feel political. To others, it sounded like confirmation, a subtle, unspoken agreement that something about this case has never fully aligned. Because when truth requires clearance, and justice comes with conditions, the question isn't whether someone is hiding something, it's why they feel the need to. From the moment Tyler James Robinson was arrested, questions have lingered. The weapon, the note, the DNA match. On paper, it all looks clear, neat, precise, official. But sometimes, clarity can be too clean, too rehearsed, too ready for the cameras. The prosecution says they have what they need: the forensics, the digital trail, the motive. The court has its timeline. The media has its summary. Yet somehow, the public only has fragments. Small, scattered pieces that never seem to form one complete truth. Reports that contradict. Witnesses who fall silent. Files that appear in headlines and disappear just as quickly. And while officials speak of justice moving forward, the people who actually lived through that night, the students in the audience, the families still grieving, the workers who heard the chaos, are left with unanswered questions that no press conference can fix. Because when silence fills the gaps, speculation doesn't just sneak in, it rushes in. It grows in every corner where clarity should live. It lives in the pauses between what was said and what wasn't. Some say Tyler James Robinson acted alone. Others quietly wonder how something so coordinated could unravel so quickly. But here's the painful part. It shouldn't take months of speculation to find out what really happened in a public space, in front of hundreds of witnesses. That's why Kash Patel's words hit so deeply. Because for many watching, it wasn't about politics. It was about the quiet fear that maybe, just maybe, someone out there already knows the truth. And if they do, then every day of silence that follows isn't just bureaucratic delay. It's a choice that keeps families waiting and keeps a nation guessing. For weeks, Kash Patel stayed silent, watching, listening, waiting. Then, when he finally spoke, he didn't point fingers. He didn't accuse. He simply reminded everyone of a truth that makes power uncomfortable. Justice can't breathe behind redactions. He didn't name names because he didn't have to. His message was broader and heavier. A warning that when the truth is managed instead of released, trust begins to rot from the inside out. And suddenly something shifted. His words didn't spark outrage from politicians. They sparked movement from ordinary people. The same citizens who watched the tragedy unfold in real time, who read the official reports, and still felt that something vital was missing. Now they're the ones demanding answers. Not for spectacle, not for division, but for clarity. Across social media, town halls, and university campuses, the message is echoing louder every day. Release every camera angle, every timestamp, every unedited note from those first 48 hours after Charlie Kirk's death. Because when the truth is buried under official silence, people start asking if the silence itself has become the story. And if a man like Kash Patel, someone who's walked the halls of federal intelligence, who understands the language of classified files, says it's time to open the records, then the question becomes, how long can those doors stay shut? The accused, Tyler James Robinson, remains at the center of the narrative. His name in headlines, his face in court sketches, his silence in every unanswered question. But the growing public unease isn't just about one man anymore. It's about the possibility that the full story, the complete truth, may still be sitting in a file, waiting for someone brave enough to let it breathe. Because when a nation starts to sense that it's being protected from its own right to know, that's when questions stop being questions and start becoming pressure. Beyond the politics, beyond the headlines, beyond the shouting, there's something far more human underneath it all. A family that lost a husband, a movement that lost its voice, and a country that once again finds itself trapped between outrage and exhaustion. In the months since the tragedy, Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow, has stepped into the role her husband once held, leading Turning Point USA with quiet strength and visible grace. She's spoken about forgiveness, about faith, about the power to rebuild after unimaginable loss. But even in her calm, even in her composure, there's something unspoken, a quiet truth that everyone feels but few will say aloud, that real closure doesn't come from court dates or press releases. It comes from honesty. Because no matter how many times the case of Tyler James Robinson is replayed on the news, no matter how many times the words evidence and motive are repeated, none of it erases the single question echoing across the nation. Do we truly know everything that happened that night? The accused is in custody. The investigation is moving forward. And yet even now, the silence between the lines of those reports feels heavier than the words themselves. Erica Kirk has said she prays not only for peace, but for truth. Because she knows that peace built on half-truths doesn't last. And she's right. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Closure only comes when honesty does. Because whether you admired Charlie Kirk or disagreed with everything he stood for, whether you believe Tyler James Robinson acted alone or that something larger is still buried in the shadows, there's one thing every human being deserves: to know that what's been presented as fact really is fact. Anything less isn't justice, it's performance. And no nation built on free speech should ever settle for that. Kash Patel's words didn't just echo through one courtroom. They rippled through Washington, through social media, and through the quiet corners of a nation that's learning to live with unanswered questions. Lawmakers have begun hinting at possible oversight hearings. Advocacy groups are drafting open letters, demanding accountability. And across digital platforms, a single phrase has become impossible to ignore: show us everything. It's not a slogan for vengeance. It's not a cry for chaos. It's a plea for clarity, from people who have grown tired of confusion being dressed up as justice. Because this isn't about one man's guilt or innocence anymore. It's about whether a democratic nation still values truth more than narrative. For many, it's not even about choosing sides between Charlie Kirk, the victim who sparked a movement, and Tyler James Robinson, the accused whose name became a symbol of unanswered questions. It's about something bigger: the moral test of transparency. If Patel's simple call for openness can shake the highest levels of power, then what does that say about how much has been kept in the dark? Because what began as one tragic night on a university stage has now become a national reflection on trust, on truth, and on whether honesty still matters more than politics. And if it doesn't, then maybe the real crisis isn't what happened that night, but what we've become since. No anger, no blame, no reckless theories, just one final call for honesty. Because Charlie Kirk's story didn't end on that stage. It lives in every question the public still isn't allowed to ask. It lives in every document that's been sealed. And it lives in every person who's still afraid to speak. Tyler James Robinson may stand accused, but the real trial is bigger than him. It's the trial of transparency itself. Kash Patel reminded the nation that truth doesn't belong to institutions, it belongs to the people. And until the people are given that truth in full, no one, not the families, not the nation, not history, can move forward in peace. So this isn't a witch hunt. It's not an attack. It's a question asked in the name of every person who's ever lost trust in the system. Show us everything. Show us the full files, the unedited footage, the reports that never reached daylight. Because if nothing is hidden, then truth has nothing to fear. But if something was, even something small, then silence is not protection, it's participation. For Charlie Kirk, for Tyler James Robinson, for every citizen who still believes truth should never be a privilege. Show us everything. Not for revenge, but for peace.